Okay, traders, thank you for joining me. Welcome back. It's been a while since we've had our weekly live training session. Just a quick one. That's obviously our disclaimer. So, just general advice only, not designed here to give personal financial advice. So, just making sure that you read through the disclaimer. We've been through this a few times, so we want to make sure that you're aware of that. I'm going to be introducing one of our new traders, which I'll talk to you about it a little bit later on, but we'll get underway because there's a little bit to get through today, and obviously we're going to make this a regular weekly session on a Sunday now, so hopefully that suits most of the traders we've got and most of the time frames. So it's good to be back, and as I said, a bit to get through. So let's have a look at what we're going to chat about today. So first up, we're going to have a look at what's happening in the markets. Obviously, there's a bit of selling pressure at the moment, and a lot of the markets are fairly negative. So we're going to have a look at what opportunities are setting up. We're going to have a look at the seasonals because obviously with our trading, we want to be aware of what's happening seasonally, not just specifically on the charts. Because while that's not going to determine exactly how we trade necessarily, but it's giving us a framework for looking at market profile, isn't it? So that's what we want to make sure that we maintain as being objective traders. That's really the key, isn't it? So we'll have a look at some of the daily charts. We're going to have a look at some of our systems and how they're running. We're specifically going to look at a case study we ran on gold. So Greg and I were working on putting together a gold strategy, and there's some interesting work done on gold because it's a market that seems to provide some really good opportunities, particularly on a daily basis. So we're going to tap into that, and we're going to talk to you more about that. We're going to have a look at some of the interesting anomalies on gold and how they're becoming very repetitive. So let's jump in and kick off with our daily analysis. So because we've started with gold, we may as well we'll jump into that chart first up. Now, if you do have any questions, there is the opportunity to raise your hand and ask a question. So feel free to do that. I will answer questions as we go. It may not be straight away, but if I see a question pop up, I'll definitely answer that question. So just quickly, let's just make sure everything's ticking along nicely. Yes, it is. All right, so our gold chart, our daily gold chart, you can see there now what I've done here, for those of you who are fairly new, I've actually got on here the VM indicator, which is our volatility indicator, which is measuring how volatile the market is. We've also got another volatility indicator, which is our stochastic, our volatility stochastic, and you can see there that we've got lines drawn at 75, and I think that's there at 20. So what that tells us is if this indicator sits high on this chart, then and it's at 96.57, that's extremely high volatility. So I've spoken about this numerous times in previous webinars. We want to make sure that if we're trading, that we've got to keep an eye on volatility, because volatility is great for movement, but it also can speed up the market and can affect your order entries. So just keep an eye on it, particularly on markets that are very quick. We don't want to get a situation where we're trading and we're looking for, say, 20, 30, 40 points of profit, and we're getting a couple of points of slippage. So we've got to be very, very careful of that. So volatility is good, but it can be a little bit of a downside as well. So just keep an eye on that. Now, you can see here we've got the 50 and the 200 period moving average. They're our institutional indicators that tells us where the strength is in this market, and obviously we've dipped below that 50 and 200. They've crossed. So this is definitely a bearish market here at the moment. We've found some support there at 1180. So it's going to be interesting what happens over the next couple of weeks. But if we have a look at, so if we're looking at technically the chart here at the moment, we've kind of bottomed out a little bit here. We're getting some support between 1240 and 1180, which is great. I mean, obviously there's opportunities there on an intraday basis, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But if we have a look at, if we go back to the seasonals, so I'm going to switch, I'm going to share with you seasonal charts. Let me just grab that up for you now. So you should be seeing the seasonal charts right now. Is we have gold futures 32 seasonal 32 years. So you can see there that gold at the moment is entering this period of strong bullish behavior on a seasonal basis. So over the last 32 years, this is how gold presents itself on a seasonal chart. So what we want to do with that information is be ready for the fact that we could potentially see a bit of a break to the top side based on our seasonal activity. Not saying that that's guaranteed, and obviously it's never guaranteed, but that's something that we need to be aware of. So if we're trading a short system, so if we've got a system that runs and is trading shorts at the moment, which we do have here. So here's our system, which is trading shorts only. So this is, let's get the number of this system. So it's our multi-system strategy. It's a high performance MSO6. Okay, so been doing really well on the short side. There's no surprises there, because if we have a look, go back to the daily chart, gold daily, we've had an extended period of selling. So this is why this system is working extremely well, and obviously the performance has been really good. So let's have a look at that. We'll break that down. But if we're coming into a period of potential a potential trend change, like a rally, based on the seasonals, we're not necessarily going to stop trading this today or Monday. We're going to be watching our strategy, just watching our average trade net profit, which is at 138 at the moment. We're going to be watching our win rate and the number of trades we're taking, and just see that if we're just going to be making sure that there's no drop off in performance here based on seasonals and based on what's happening with the market condition. So if we've got any questions, just feel free to hit the chat as far as questions on gold or questions on this chart. So just checking chat is working. So we'll just fire that off. So as I said before, we're going to make sure that that our performance maintains it just maintains its performance, because ultimately whether we trade in gold or excellent, thanks Greg, whether we're trading gold or silver or heating oil or coffee, it doesn't really matter. We've just got to make sure that that seasonal information that we have, which is here, that rally, while it's information, it doesn't go, we don't act upon that until we know that that potentially we're being affected with the performance of our current short system. So we're going to maintain the integrity of that short system by tracking it, and if it does drop off, then obviously we need to look at a strategy that encompasses longs as well. So that's a nice segue into the next chart, because this is shorts only on gold. So let's have a quick look at the performance. The graph itself is not too bad. You can see the steady rise there, equity highs, which is great. The key things for us are making sure that we're not taking too many trades a week. Obviously, we don't want to be over trading, but this is probably a little bit more trades than we would normally be taking. But that depends on your trading style. So coming back to I think it's session 2 of the Pro Trader program, you've got to determine, or 3, you've got to determine what your trading style is, whether you're a short-term, medium-term, or long-term trader. And if you're a long-term swing trader, then something like this is going to be certainly too much activity for you. But if you're short-term, you like to be in the market, you potentially like to do a bit of scalping or intraday trading, this is perfect for you. So let's have a look at our performance as well. We want to, couple of the things we want to have a look at are the number of trades, 144, average trade net profit 138. We also know that there's going to be, in any system, you want to identify what the outliers are. So those outliers are trades that are anomalies to the standard or the norm that you're getting. So you want to basically keep a little bit of an eye on that as well. So making sure that you know, that's not that, you know, if you had a system that had 10 trades and the average trade net profit for those 10 trades was say $60, and then you had one outlier which pushed it up to 140 or 150, then that would be a little bit of a concern. But we've got two outliers here, so it doesn't take up a large percentage of the overall profit. So that's something you always want to have a look at as well. The other thing is too, making sure that your average trade net profit maintains its level as long as possible. The win rate I'm not too concerned about. Some people are fixated on making sure that their win rate's at a certain percentage, so it might be 75 or higher. It doesn't really worry me, but I know what my threshold is as well. So anyone who's trading will have a win rate threshold. You've got to find out what that is for you. So it may be that you need to have a win rate of, say, 50% or better, or maybe 70 or 80 or whatever that is. But as you push that win rate up, you've got to remember too that you're potentially sacrificing your overall average trade net profit. That reward to risk, the ratio as well. Remember that when we're trading, we want to have, ideally, if we're risking $1, we want to try to get $3 back. You know, that 3-to-1 ratio, that's the sweet spot. You know, if you can do better, that's fantastic, but ideally you want to have that as part of your benchmark. The other thing is too, your drawdown. You don't want this drawdown to be, like ideally for me, I want to see it, you know, 1/10 of the overall profit. So a ratio of 1 to 10. So if I've got $2,000 there, I probably want about 20k of profit. That would be great. So we're getting close to that. Now, my max drawdown as well. This is another threshold point. So if you're trading one system, then you don't really want to be risking, you know, 50% of your overall account on a drawdown. You want to keep it so you can stay in the game. So if you've got a $10,000 account, there's 24% of your account being risked. So you've got to think, well, what with this system I'm trading, what percentage can I risk as my worst case scenario? Because remember too, you've got to get back from that as well. So that's a little bit of a look at this strategy on gold. Remember, this is a shorts only strategy. So if we go back to the daily for gold, that's working well here. We know right at this point here in November, so if we mark up November, we're actually in an interesting period here, because this is where it's telling us on the seasonal that we're going to get a potential run higher. So this is going to be really good to watch this to see how, let's just make sure that sharing that. Sorry about that, guys. It's going to be really interesting to see that rally that we get, if it comes to fruition, whether it starts now or it starts kind of the tail end of November. It's going to be an interesting outcome there. So we'll just keep an eye on that as well. So if you find that, let's have a quick look here at our chat. So just making sure that we've got the chat option available there. Yeah. So if you've got any questions, as I said, let me know, and we'll make sure we answer that. So getting back to gold, this is our second system on gold. Here is an interesting one, because we've got the multi-system one that is strongly onto the short side, so it's working really well. But then we've got the good old trend trader here that is just knocking it out every week. So it's got a long short bias, so it's trading longs and shorts. So if we have a look here, there's no surprises there that the longs aren't doing that well. But what the advantage we have with this strategy is that, yeah, look, it's not hitting it out of the park as far as profit over the last 6 months, but what it's doing is it's maintaining an average trade net profit. It's not trading a lot. It's got 55 trades, 54%. What I like about it is the profit factor is 3.3. The other thing is too, the drawdown is fairly minimal at 780, but the good thing is with this system, it doesn't matter whether we're trading longs or shorts, whether the market's got a long or short bias. This thing's just ticking along nicely, and it seems to be just holding its equity curve as well. So this is probably, as far as like structural, the structure of the market and a balance. This is a really nice balanced system, and it's not one that you would kind of say has a significant bias, which is what we want to see. Ideally, when we're creating our systems, if we can, we want to create a combination system. We're going to talk a little bit more about that because Greg and I have been spending a fair bit of work on looking at gold and the systems and the opportunities that present themselves on this market. So we've spoken about the daily, we've chatted about two of the systems that are doing really well on gold. Obviously one's a short system, the other one is a combined strategy, longs and shorts. And the interesting thing is here with gold is that typically between 8 and 9 o'clock on most days, you'll get either a rally or a sell-off on gold. And a lot of the time it's a sell-off, but sometimes you'll see a bit of a rally as well. So around that time you see some movement, and it looks as though it's kind of forced movement in the market. So whether it's some manipulation or what's going on, but typically you'll see around the 8 o'clock mark that the market will start to really hot up, and you'll get some movement and some selling pressure or some buying pressure. So this happens on a daily basis. So as traders, we want to be in a position to be able to take advantage of this, and you can see it there again. As I said before, it's been happening a lot, and the systems we're looking at putting together are kind of looking at taking advantage of this anomaly that's happening in the market. Well, it's not. It's a pattern that's happening on a daily basis almost. So definitely something that we'll be talking more about as we look more into gold and other markets and opportunities. But what we see a lot too is that we see the market either rally or sell off, and then a strong push back into the other direction. So it's almost a case of trying to kind of get some balance for the day and resetting itself. But there's some interesting information on days of the week as well, which I'm going to talk about next week. So I'm going to do a little bit more research on that. But on some of the information that Greg sent through, there's some interesting data on what are the strongest days of the week for gold. And Friday appears to be a very, very strong trading day. So we'll have a look a little bit more on that in our next session. So what I wanted to do, obviously when we've got a system, whether it's the trend trader or the multi-system strategy, whether it's heating oil or the Euro futures, it doesn't matter. We can't just create a system and then just let it do its thing. You need to maintain the integrity of the system, because ultimately, markets change. It's not going to be good enough just to create the system and then just let it run, because you've got seasonality, you've got the flow of money come in and out of the market, you've got daylight savings, you've got all of these things affect. You've got harvesting, particularly for the commodity markets. All of these things are affecting when the money is moving in the market and how price is kind of being driven. So what we want to do as traders is we want to keep an eye on our system and our performance of our system, and that requires us, if we're running an automated system, to do a optimization. And our benchmark is that we do an optimization once a month. So that's typically what we do. And what I wanted to show you here is I wanted to show you some information that's been put together on optimizing gold. Greg's called it Gold Combo. If I misconstrue anything here, let me know, because I'm just running off what Greg's done as far as the spreadsheet. But he's done a great job on this. Obviously, we looked at gold, the system we call Gold Combo. So it's a combination of longs and shorts. So we'll start on the left side of the spreadsheet. The way it's been set up is we've got our longs and our shorts. So obviously the longs and shorts are being split up because we've seen in the past that they behave differently as far as trade setups. So why not split them up and see if we can get an advantage there as well. Now, what we did was we looked at each month and running an optimization on the 15th of each month or halfway through each month. So we'd re-optimize the charts. And the way we did that was we went into the chart. If I go into gold here, and all we did was we set up the first chart was set up with 12 months data back, and then every month we would go back and do a 4-month optimization. So we'd set that to 4 months, and then we'd go into the settings, and we wouldn't optimize every single setting. We were very specific in what we were doing. We were optimizing the time of the day, so the time of the day, the start and finish. We were re-optimizing the initial stop and whatever trailing stop we'd picked. So if we had, say for example, that as a trailing stop, that would be what we'd optimize. And the other thing we were optimizing was the MACD profit. That was it. So they're the only things we optimized. And we did that once a month, every month, and using 4 months of data back, and the results are interesting. So what we did, this was really the idea here was to track how the system would have performed if we didn't do any optimization at all. So if we just left the system as it was and we didn't re-optimize it monthly or didn't look at the days of the week or what days are performing better or what days aren't, then how would the system have performed? Well, interestingly, with Gold Combo, it actually performed really well. It made about $7,130 over that period. So, or its total profit was $7,130. So, starting in June, it had made profit of 4.8. Then in June's profit was 7.10, then 3.30. So it did have obviously a losing month of September, but it actually held its own pretty well, and it bought in 7. So that's if you put the system on, originally created your high performance system, and then you basically trade it every day of the week and let it trade for the entire period from June to October. So that's not a bad performance. Now, would that happen on every system that you create? No, you don't typically see systems hold up that well, particularly if there's a lot of volatility in the market and a lot of movement. So that tells me that system is actually quite robust. So that's quite a good system. So one that you want to definitely hang on to. Now, the other thing we looked at was, all right, well, if we've created the system, we've created the settings, we run it, let it run, and not doing anything, we still make money. But what happens if we create the system, and we'll go back to it here, and what happens if we then go in and monitor and track the days of the week? And what we decided was that, all right, well, we're going to do this. What we'll do is we'll run this system, and the first scenario will be running the system without any optimization, so not doing that monthly optimization. That was what we got the profit there from the results that we had. The second, and I'll just share this with you here. The second scenario was to run the system, not do an optimization, but track the days of the week performance. So making sure that every day is profitable. And if it's not profitable, then it doesn't get traded. So that was the second scenario. So if we go back to the spreadsheet here, if we do a share on the spreadsheet, so let's go there, and I'll just make sure that that's working. If we do, so that option 1 was tracking the pilot without doing any optimization monthly. That's doing nothing to the system. Option 2 was tracking the system. But if a day of the week started to lose money or got negative, so there was no profit on that day, so we broke it up Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, like as you can see here, then we would drop that day of trading. So that trading would not be traded for the next month. So the way that played out was, it was quite interesting because what it meant that the days that weren't making any money, we would just drop off. And we had a situation where we had a profit at the end of the period that we tested. It was actually more profitable to do that than to do nothing. So that became the new benchmark. So it was to look at the days of the week on a monthly basis, and to determine whether one of those days, any of those days, needed to be maintained or not based on their performance. So if you have a look here, in June, the only really profitable days for the system were Monday on the longs and Monday, Tuesday on the shorts. But that changed in July. In July, we started to get profitable days Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and on the shorts we got profitable days Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. So you can see the pattern changes in the system and the market. So if you do include days of the week, it does actually make a significant difference, and that was what was kind of interesting to us. Now, the next thing that we looked at was the optimization function. So what happens if we optimize the system rather than do nothing or just look at days of the week? What happens if we just optimize the system? We're not obviously going to over optimize the strategy. So if we go back to our chart here, I'm just going to share the screen with you now. If we optimize a strategy based on those basic settings of time of the day, days of the week, time of the day, the stop, the trailing stop, and our target. So there's really only 4 parameters that we're optimizing. You can see there's a lot more in this strategy, but we're only looking at 4 of them. If we keep that consistent over the 5 or 6 months that we're testing, how would we have performed? So let's have a look. Let's go back to our chart here. Sorry, our spreadsheet. We'll do a new share on the spreadsheet. And what's interesting here is, let's bring that up. Let's get rid of that for a start. Just move that over there. Sorry about that, guys. Just go back to that. Right. So if we look at the optimizing, you can see that that actually performed a lot better as well. We were actually getting quite a significant improvement in profit there too by optimizing the strategy on a monthly basis. So just doing the optimization, not worrying about the days of the week, but just doing the optimization, that came out to be the most profitable so far. Then we thought, well, you know, the ultimate would be to optimize once a month, but then also have the best days of the week being traded. That's kind of like your high performance system. That's the ultimate combination of optimizing and keeping the best days of the week. And the way that worked was obviously really well. It came out to be the most profitable approach for the testing period. And remember too, this is walk forward. It's not back testing. This is what we did month by month. So it was quite a good result overall. Now, I'm not suggesting that that is your process for every single system, because what you'll find is that some systems you may get better results doing, say, just the optimization or just the days of the week. So it's up to you when you create your system to work out what is your optimal way to run your system. That's what you have to do. So I would definitely suggest that if you're going to follow this process, that you do this exercise with each of your systems. It takes a little bit of time, but it's definitely worth that time and effort. I think Greg would agree with that. I think that that it's something that is worth doing and definitely worth putting the time and effort into. So I would say that that I would encourage everyone to do it. I mean, obviously, it's something that is worth taking the time and effort to do, because you can see the results that come from that. All right, so that was a little bit of a look at gold. Now, obviously, we're still going with our systems. We've got a number of systems that we're testing, so we'll give you an update on how that plays out as we push forward. And at the moment, we've got some nice little strategies running there on gold, so we'll just keep an eye on that as well. Now, the other thing I wanted to do today was just quickly chat to you about, and I'll just minimize that for a second. I'll go back to our charts. So let's go back to TradeStation. We do have a new, obviously a new program running, which is our GMT FX Live. So those of you who are interested in having a look at that, I'm going to send out a pass for you to go and have a look. There's a daily live session that Jeff's joined us, Jeff Akos. He's been involved in forex trading and running forex markets, coaching, mentoring, and the like for probably the last 6, 7, 8, 9 years, perhaps a little bit longer. That's a little bit of a picture of Jefferson Akos. That's his setup in Cairns. He's a very passionate forex trader. Has a great strategy. He uses what we call a weekly candle close, and he's got a golden candle system, and he's got a number of VAs that he uses. Has a great, simple, refined system that works beautifully on the forex market. So he's joining us and he's running his own daily live sessions. So I'm going to send an invitation out to our forex traders and our GMT traders to go and have a look at that. That's definitely worth having a look at. Had some great results as well. So you'll find his training and coaching, or his training and his daily live training, very interesting, and I definitely would suggest you go and have a look at that as well. So just to add a little bit of variety and diversification to your systems. It doesn't mean that you can't still use obviously the GMT stuff as far as your EAs and things like that, and it's a great combination. So a little bit more on that later, but that's where we're at the moment. So at the moment we have our weekly live session, which is the Pro Traders live session. I'll be sending you an update of some of the systems that we're using at the moment, some of the better systems. I've done a little bit more work on the Euro futures, which I'll talk about shortly. But these systems that we set out, I'll be sending an email out with a link to Dropbox as well. I will be providing a recording of this session, because we want to make sure that you've got access to that as well, and we've got that VIP pass for the daily session, which you can go and have a look at that with Jeff free. He's running them every day, I think 10 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, or Daylight Saving Time, so it's not too late for you to pop in and have a look. But hopefully this session, once we get up and running again on a weekly basis, we'll get some pretty good numbers here, because this time slot seems to be a fairly good time slot for most people. So hopefully Sunday's enticing, but I know some people like to have a bit of a sleep in on Sunday, but we'll see how we go. So guys, that was a little bit of a walkthrough today of where we're at. I'll be running through more systems as we progress over the next month or so. We're putting together a nice little multi-system on TradeStation and potentially on TradeStation and multi-charts, and we also have a couple of VAs that we've got for MT4 as well. So let's have a quick, before we wrap this up and finish our session, just want to have a quick look at the Euro futures. So this system here is running well, but it could be a little bit better, and we want to make sure that when we're putting a system together that we're able to get out of things like this messy area here. You can see that the equity graph is a little bit jumpy. So one of the things that we might do is overlay a couple of our directional filters during this period here, and I'll do that as a bit of a test this week, just to see how much of an improvement we can get, because at the moment we've got longs off completely. There's no profit in the euro longs at all. So the shorts are bringing in some good profit, but still there's a lot of trades there. 205 trades, 66%. We could probably overall improve the performance there. The biggest issue with this strategy at the moment is the drawdown. So as a kind of, like, it's great to show you some systems that are doing well, but I also like to show you systems that look okay but need a little bit of work, and we can kind of work together as a team to kind of improve that and then get it to the market where it's a little bit more robust, and we're not getting those peaks in equity, because that's the killer, isn't it? Like, if you're trading a system and you're wanting to see consistent performance, one of the things that is more challenging than anything is that drop off in performance, like mentally and obviously financially. It's a bit of a challenge, because you get used to a certain system performing well, and then if you start to get a drop in performance, it does affect your overall your ability to maintain the strategy. So we'll work on that, and one of the things that we'll work on is just work on how do we eliminate. There's a lot of trades there, so how do we reduce the trade number, increase or maintain the win rate, and also increase the average trade net profit? Because if we can drop some of these poorer performing trades, like if you have a look at the trade analysis, you'll see here that let's have a look at there's 35 times, or there's 10 times we've had two losers or more, and they're an average of 783. So there's some work we can do, and it looks like we're getting those one-off losers where we may need to look at, is that a directional bias, or can we add a filter in there that will improve our overall performance of taking these short trades, or these particular trades, or can we improve the system to include longs as well? So just a couple of things we need to work on there, just to make sure that we improve the overall performance. So before we wrap it up, I just want to quickly have a look at the other charts before we go, and we'll have a look at some of those daily charts. As I said before, there's plenty of opportunity coming up. So you've got the S&P, definitely broke that trend line, has gone through the 50 and the 200 period, has kind of sitting below those two, so it's very bearish. Volatility's up, so it'll be interesting to see where this goes. It looks like it might find some support there at 2,700. We've already spoken about gold. Gold's at an impasse here, so we might find that if we get above 1280, that becomes currently resistance, but it may become the next level of support for gold to go higher, which is what our seasonals are telling us. Remember that the S&P as well, that's typically a bullish run into the end of the year, so we'll keep an eye on that with the Dow. And crude oil has just been down, so nice little break of that trend line there. Didn't even come back to touch the intersecting point of the trend line. It just went straight down and through the 50 and the 200 period moving average. So it'll be interesting to see where that ends up as well at 55 and getting some support, but could be potentially lower. So if you are trading crude, volatility's up. So that's one of the things that we spoke about earlier. Got to make sure that you're tracking your fills and making sure that you're not getting too much slippage. It's really renowned as a market that typically does get a fair bit of slippage, so keep an eye on that as well. Alright guys, that's going to wrap it up for me today. As I said, I'll send out a couple of things today for you to follow up on, as far as the Forex and a copy of the webinar that we've done today, some of the charts that we've shown. So I'll be sending those out, and I'm looking forward to chatting to you next Sunday. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. Otherwise, have a fantastic week, and I'll be sharing obviously a lot more stuff with you as we go forward. So a couple of indicators that we've put together as well, which I'll be talking about next Saturday or Sunday, sorry. So if you haven't already had a look at the VWAP indicator, definitely download that. If you're not sure where to get that, just send me an email and I'll send that out, because that's one of the indicators that we're using to measure value in the market. So I'll be talking about that next week. But apart from that, thank you for your time. It's good to be back, and I'll catch you on the next update. Cheers.